So a concept that people often talk about in relation to agents and avatars is the so-called uncanny valley. Uncanny means a little creepy, a little slightly off, a little weird. And this uncanny valley really has to do with the realism of what you show to people in terms of agents, avatars, human-like or not so human-like creatures even. So if you have a look at those two faces here, on the left hand, you see clearly the face of a doll, right? On the right hand, you clearly see the face of a human. And both of those, I would say, are not very creepy, right? So this human looks very normal human. This doll also very much looks like a doll, right? They're not really creepy. But if you then sort of merge those two images and you look at some things that are sort of in between, they're not 100% human-like, and they're also not 100% not human-like, then it sort of starts to become a little bit creepy, right? And you can imagine that if you encounter a virtual agent or an avatar that's sort of a bit human-like, but not completely, that might sort of scare people. They might find this a little weird, a little creepy, it looks a bit like a zombie. So this is this relation between realism and this uncanniness. Why do we have this? Why do we have this experience of experiencing something as being uncanny? Well, some researchers have argued that the human brain is so finely tuned to watching the human face that if you see something that is slightly off, so it's not completely a human face, but it looks a bit like it, that strangeness becomes creepy and alarming. Just because it is slightly off. So if it would have been completely off, like this doll that you see here, then all of a sudden it's not creepy anymore because it's so clear that it's not a human. But you can also visualize this. So here on the y-axis, you see people's response, people's reaction to a certain agent. It can be a robot or a humanoid robot, an android, a healthy human. And on the x-axis, you see how much those things, those entities are human-like. So completely on the left side, you see, for instance, industrial robots and humanoid robots. It's very clear that those are not human-like, right? That they're not human. They're clearly robots. Therefore, typically, because they're not slightly off, but they're very much off in terms of being human-like, people overall have a kind of relatively positive response to that, right? If you look at the complete right side of those graphs, there you have normal, typical, healthy humans. They are very much human-like, right? And we know what humans look like. So there are also typically people's response is positive. It's just that in between, in this sort of valley in between, where you have things like androids or zombies or animated characters that are quite human-like, but not completely. So they are slightly off. Then it sort of starts to become creepy. For people. So that's this uncanny valley. There's really a valley in this graph where certain things become creepy, become uncanny. You see the red line and the black line here. That's the difference between static behavior and dynamic behavior in those kind of different agents or creatures. If all those things, all those entities start moving, then the effect becomes stronger. So if robots move in a very robot-like way, not in a human-like way, then you're sort of sure, even more sure that they're robots and not humans. So you sort of have a positive response to that. Same for healthy humans. If they start walking and you see that they do so in a dynamic, human-like way, then you will accept those humans as being human and having a more positive response. And also in this valley, the same effect holds. So if they start moving and it's slightly off, then people get an even more creepy response to this. So in a later stage of the course, we'll get back to this because this uncanny valley is sometimes debated, and then we'll talk more about it. But this is the general principle.